In order to factor by grouping with a negative sign in the middle, meaning this symbol right here, then we still have to group the first two terms and then the last two terms together. But the most important thing is, remember from the last video, factoring by grouping, we have to have a plus sign there. That's what we want, because otherwise it's going to end up looking like this. Some people are going to put parentheses around the first two terms and the last two terms. But what happens though is that, remember what we started off with. We started off with this negative being out here and this positive 5 without the parentheses. But when we put parentheses around it, means that we're going to have, let's just write this down real quick, the 2x cubed minus x squared minus 10x minus 5. And of course that's not what we started with. So this would be an improper case of factoring. So let's go ahead and clear this. And then people are like, well, I guess I can go ahead and include the negative sign. So I'll do that. But from this point, now it looks like a multiplication problem. And if you're on a test or a quiz, what's going to happen is that you're going to FOIL this out and it's going to look horrible. And it's definitely not going to look like resemble at all what you started off with. So let's talk about the proper way of doing this to maintaining everything in terms of quantity and what we started off with. So let's clear this and then let's rewrite it with the plus sign in there. So we have the 2x cubed minus x squared plus, and then we want to write the negative 10x plus 5. So now notice there's a plus there, which makes this a lot easier to handle. So now we can go ahead and group the first two together and then the last two together. And notice we didn't change any numbers around, and it definitely doesn't look like a multiplication problem. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and factor each grouping. So with this first grouping here, it looks like we have an x squared in common. So we've got 2x minus 1, then bring down our plus sign, and then in this term we actually have a negative 5 being in there. So what we want is we want to have a negative 5 out here. The reason why we pull out a negative 5, I'll get to that in a minute. But if we have a negative 5, then that means we've got a 2x left over and then a minus 1. So, and of course, if you want to check yourself about this, you can always multiply that back out and you should get this answer. So with this whole idea of plus minus, what we're going to do is we're just going to change that to a negative. So we have x squared times 2x minus 1 minus 5 times 2x minus 1. Now, what we need to do here is we have these terms, and all we have to do is notice that that 2x minus 1 is actually the greatest common factor. So let's take out the 2x minus 1. And what we have left over is the x squared and this negative 5. So this is fully factored. Now let's go back to this idea of why did we factor out this negative 5 here and not a positive 5? Well, what would happen if we did actually factor out that as a positive 5? This is what it would have looked like. 2x squared times 2x minus 1 plus 5 times negative 2x plus 1. And so in order to factor the rest of this, these two guys have to be the same. Although they don't look the same, but they would look the same if we went ahead and did that extra step of factoring out that negative as well. So then we would have the negative 5, 2x minus 1. So remember, you always want to get these two guys to be exactly the same, so that you can factor it out.